The old truck's engine let out a sickly groan before falling silent in the heart of Alaska's bear country. Torrin Vexler turned the key again, but all he heard was a hollow click. The autumn sun dipped behind the snow-capped mountains, casting long shadows through the pine trees. As a wildlife photographer with 2 decades of experience, he knew being stranded here could spell doom. The dashboard thermometer read 28 degrees Fahrenheit and falling. Torrin reached for his satellite phone, but its screen stayed black, dead. He'd been so caught up photographing the strange bear activity earlier that he'd neglected to charge it. Peering through his camera's viewfinder at the day's shots, he spotted something unsettling. The bears had moved in patterns he'd never seen before. Instead of their usual lone wandering, they were clustering in groups, almost as if they were planning something. A flicker of movement caught his eye through the frosted windshield. At first, it seemed like a shadow, but then it took shape. A massive grizzly bear stood at the clearing's edge, its breath puffing in the chilly air. The bear's behavior was peculiar. It wasn't foraging or passing through, it was watching, waiting. Torrin's hands grew cold as he noticed more shapes shifting in the thickening darkness. His research truck was packed with supplies, food, water, emergency flares, and his costly camera gear filled the back. The nearest ranger station was 4 hours away, but without a working phone or engine it might as well have been on another world. The forest had fallen eerily quiet, no bird calls, no rustling of small creatures. It was the kind of stillness that seasoned outdoorsmen like him knew to dread. Through his thermal imaging gear, Torrin picked up more movement. Heat signatures revealed bears closing in from multiple directions, their hulking forms stark against the cold backdrop. This wasn't normal. Bears were typically solitary, especially this close to winter. Something had united them, and his truck sat smack in the middle of their assembly. As darkness blanketed the forest, Torrin grasped a chilling truth. He wasn't just stuck in bear territory, he was encircled by them, and their coordinated movements hinted at a purpose he'd never seen in all his years of wildlife photography. The real question was why, and he had a sinking feeling he'd soon find out. His hands shook on the steering wheel as more massive shapes emerged from the deepening shadows. The bears moved with uncanny precision that defied everything he understood about wildlife. 3 grizzlies appeared from the northern tree line, their broad shoulders shoving through the underbrush. 4 more slipped out from the east, silent as shadows in the fading light. Each bear, weighing nearly 1,000 pounds, rippled with muscle beneath thick autumn fur, positioning themselves with intent. These weren't random sightings. The bears spread out methodically, keeping even distances as they began forming a circle around his stalled truck. Through his telephoto lens, Torrin caught details that chilled his blood. The bears communicated with subtle head tilts and body shifts he'd never witnessed in his 20 years on the job. They operated with military-like precision, each knowing exactly where to stand in the growing formation. A towering grizzly stepped from the shadows directly ahead of his truck, rearing up on its hind legs to nearly 9 feet, its breath steaming in the cold. The bear's eyes glinted with intelligence as it locked onto Torrin, swaying slightly while holding its stance. The others adjusted their positions in response to this apparent leader, maintaining perfect spacing as they tightened their encirclement. Torrin's survival instincts screamed at him to act. He turned the ignition, but the engine stayed dead. The satellite phone on the passenger seat was useless, its battery drained. Through his night vision gear, he counted more bears joining the circle, 5 from the south, moving in flawless sync with the rest. Their synchronization was unnerving, each bear stepping in time to expand the formation. The temperature inside the truck dropped as the sun vanished behind the peaks. Frost crept over his windows, forcing him to wipe them clear to track the bear's movements. His headlights cut twin beams through the dark, illuminating the massive predators but making the blackness beyond them impenetrable. The bears exploited these shadows, vanishing into the gloom only to reappear in more strategic spots. What terrified Torrin most wasn't their size or numbers, but their patience. They showed none of the usual behaviors he'd expect from grizzlies near a vehicle: no curiosity, no aggression, no scavenging for food. Instead, they moved with purpose, their actions aligned as if following a plan. Each time he shifted in his seat, the bears adjusted subtly, tightening their circle around the truck. The encirclement grew precise, more bears appeared until 15 stood in formation, an unbroken ring about 30 feet from his truck. The lead bear remained upright, seeming to guide the others with nearly invisible head and shoulder cues. The rest responded instantly, shifting with fluid grace despite their bulk. Through his professional camera's viewfinder, Torrin captured details that would later shock wildlife experts. The bears displayed advanced positional awareness, keeping sightlines with each other while blocking every escape route. They used the terrain tactically. Some took elevated spots on small rises, others held lower ground near the trees as if they grasped strategic advantage. The lead bear suddenly dropped to all fours and the entire circle moved in unison. The synchronized shift sent shivers down Torin's spine. These weren't 15 separate bears, they acted like one entity, their movements impossibly precise. The circle tightened further, and Torin could now see their scars and weathered features in his headlights. The temperature plunged as total darkness swallowed the forest. The only sounds were the bears' heavy breathing and the occasional crunch of frost beneath their paws. Torin realized he was witnessing something unprecedented in wildlife behavior if he lived to tell the tale. The bears had formed a perfect circle around his truck, and as the last light faded, they all turned to face him, their eyes glinting like 30 embers in the dark. Sweat trickled down his back despite the cold. He tried the engine again, pumping the gas desperately. The starter whined but wouldn't catch. Each failed attempt drew the bears' attention, their heads swiveling in unison at the sound. The truck's battery was fading with every try, and Torin knew he had to save power for the headlights. He slammed the horn, its blare echoing through the clearing, but the bears didn't flinch. Instead, they pressed closer, shrinking their circle. The lead grizzly took 2 steps forward, its breath fogging the air. Torin could see its muscles flex beneath its thick fur, strong enough to overturn his truck if it chose. The radio hissed with static as he cycled through emergency channels, his voice growing hoarse from shouting his location. Silence answered. The bears began a slow, synchronized advance, stepping forward every few minutes. The precision of their movement was chilling. Wild animals didn't act like this. It felt almost militaristic. Torin grabbed his emergency flares, hands trembling as he loaded the flare gun. The first red streak lit the sky, bathing the clearing in crimson. The bears didn't react, their eyes reflected the glow, 15 pairs fixed on his truck. He fired flare after flare until only 2 remained, each burst revealing more bears joining the circle with eerie coordination. The temperature display now read 20 degrees. Ice crystals spiderwebbed across his windows, forcing him to scrape them clear. Through his night vision scope, he watched in disbelief as the bears shifted positions, one advancing while others adjusted to maintain the circle like a choreographed dance. Their behavior hinted at an intelligence that defied explanation. Torin's survival training kicked in. He inventoried his supplies, 2 water bottles, emergency rations for 3 days, a Sub-Zero sleeping bag, and his camera gear. The satellite phone remained a useless lump of plastic. The lead grizzly dropped to all fours and edged closer, sniffing the air. The others mirrored it, each taking 3 synchronized steps forward. The circle shrank to barely 20 feet wide. Torin could see their breath in his headlights, their individual scars and markings clear. Every instinct urged him to flee, but he forced himself to stay calm and observe. Something about their behavior tugged at his professional curiosity. They weren't aggressive. Their movements were deliberate, not threatening, almost as if they were conveying something. The lead bear lifted its head and let out a sound unlike anything Torin had heard in his decades of photography. Not a growl or roar, but something more intricate. The others responded in perfect harmony, their calls weaving a pattern of communication that defied nature. Through his telephoto lens, Torin noticed them taking turns glancing over their shoulders, all toward the same direction, their movements synchronized like a ballet. When one scanned the western horizon, others kept their eyes on the truck, establishing a rotating watch system, impossible for wild animals. Their actions suggested not just intelligence but organized intent. The lead grizzly swayed its head in distinct patterns, followed by 2 sharp paw gestures. The response was instant. The entire circle shifted, each bear taking 3 steps closer. Yet their approach wasn't hostile. Their body language seemed protective, almost like a shield. A faint sound drifted through the night air. Torin strained to place it, but the bear's reaction told him enough. Their ears perked up as one, and the circle tilted slightly west. The lead bear rumbled low, a different tone from before. The group took another coordinated step toward the truck. Torin's gaze flicked upward. Something was off. Despite clear weather predictions, clouds gathered fast, hanging low and thick with a faint orange glow that intensified by the minute. The bears grew restless, their movements sharper, their circle tighter. Their heads swiveled west more often. Then Torin caught it. A whiff of smoke on the wind, growing stronger with each gust. His heart raced as it clicked. The bears' coordination, their urgency, it wasn't about hunting or attacking. They sensed something massive, something humans couldn't detect yet. The lead bear slammed its paw down, the impact shaking the truck. The others turned outward, facing away from him. The truth hit hard. These creatures weren't a threat. They were trying to save him. Their intricate movements, their communication, their positioning, it was all to protect not just themselves but him too. The orange glow in the clouds brightened. In the distance, Torin heard the faint crack of timber. The bear's behavior transcended anything recorded in wildlife studies, showing not just cooperation but cross-species altruism. As the smoke thickened, Torin realized he was seeing something that would upend humanity's view of animal consciousness. These bears had formed a rescue team, and their actions hinted they'd done this before. The sky turned a fiery orange as a wall of flames crested the western ridge. The forest fire surged like a living beast, swallowing everything. Ancient pines bursting into flame towers, the inferno's roar deafening. Now Torin understood why the bears had gathered, why they'd surrounded his truck. The grizzlies held their ground, their bodies a living compass, each calculating and planning. The lead bear turned to Torin's truck and did something that shattered his wildlife assumptions. It dipped its head, then raised it, pointing its snout toward a narrow gap in the trees to the east. The gesture was deliberate, almost human. Sparks rained down as the firestorm closed in, the temperature spiking from frigid to furnace-like. The bears stood firm, their hulking forms casting shadows in the firelight. They were using their deep knowledge of the forest to show him an escape route. Torin realized he was witnessing undocumented science. These creatures had organized to save a human. The lead bear sidled up to his truck and tapped the driver's door with its massive paw, 3 distinct taps. Not an attack but a signal. The other bears shifted, forming a corridor toward the tree gap, their movements precise and purposeful. They were guiding him out, communicating across species lines. Through his night vision scope, Torin saw smaller animals. Deer, foxes, wolves. Fleeing through the corridor the bears had marked, their rivalries forgotten in the crisis. The bears positioned themselves to save not just him, but the forest's creatures, acting as wilderness guardians with staggering intelligence and compassion. The heat grew unbearable as the fire neared. The bears held against the inferno, their fur singed by embers, keeping the escape path clear. The lead bear's eyes met Torin's through the windshield, revealing an awareness that transcended instinct. A burning tree crashed behind the truck, spraying sparks. The bears adjusted instantly, shielding the corridor from debris with flawless coordination. They'd created this circle not to trap him, but to rescue him, risking their lives for a human in their domain. Torin gripped his camera, capturing what could be the most extraordinary wildlife encounter ever recorded. These bears weren't just showing advanced behavior, they were displaying altruism and intelligence that would force a rethink of animal consciousness. He turned the key one last time, and miraculously the engine roared to life. The bears moved in perfect formation, creating a living tunnel through the burning forest. The lead bear, its fur singed from shielding the truck, took the lead while others flanked the sides, their bodies barriers against the flames. Their precision suggested they'd planned this escort, knowing how to guide a vehicle through chaos. Through the smoke, Torin followed, his headlights catching their forms as they navigated the inferno. When fallen trees blocked the way, for bears worked in pairs, clearing obstacles with rehearsed efficiency. Some maintained a protective ring around the truck, watching all directions. The forest became an apocalyptic scene, pines exploding, heat warping the truck's dash readings beyond their limits. The bears, though, understood fire behavior instinctively, leading him through natural breaks and creek beds that offered survival odds. The lead bear's intelligence shone as it navigated the maze, dodging falling branches with split-second teamwork. Their fur smoked, but they rotated positions to share the heat burden, never faltering. Other wildlife joined. Deer, wolves, a moose and calf, foxes. Running beside the truck, their fear of humans gone in this flight for life. The bears ensured a path for all, a caravan guided by ancient wisdom. The lead bear paused, sniffing the wind, then veered from a wall of flame, the others adjusting with military precision to a safer route. They anticipated the fire's spread, keeping ahead of its path. Torrens' truck jolted over rough ground, but the bears cleared obstacles preemptively, testing terrain for stability. Their problem-solving outstripped instinct, showing cognition that defied belief. Smoke thickened, blinding him, but the bears closed in, their bodies guiding him through the murk, their night-adapted eyes unerring. They led him to thinner smoke pockets, letting them all breathe. Torren realized this wasn't just escape. It was nature unveiling its depths, a cooperation humans had never documented. His camera rolled, capturing this journey. The bears weren't just saving him. They were showing the natural world's complexity. A faint light pierced the smoke ahead. Not fire, but two beams. The ranger station's floodlights, a lifeline in the burning night. The lead grizzly rumbled, the sound rippling through the group. They held formation as they neared the station, their singed fur glowing in the lights. More animals joined. Elk, goats, even mountain lions. Prey and predator united in exodus. Through his rearview mirror, Torren saw a river of wildlife following the bear's path, birds swooping low in their wake. The bears had saved not just him, but countless creatures, their knowledge making them ecosystem guardians. Rangers emerged, flashlights cutting the smoke, freezing at the sight. 15 grizzlies escorting a truck, leading a wildlife parade. Some reached for tranquilizers but stopped, awestruck. This wasn't danger, it was something new. The lead bear halted at the station's edge, turning to Torren's truck. In its eyes he saw consciousness, satisfaction, an almost human gleam. Steam rose from its singed fur as Torren reached safety. The bears lingered, guarding until every animal in their convoy was safe. Deer bounding past, foxes darting through, before melting into unburned forest with the same purpose they'd shown all night. Rangers swarmed Torren's truck, voices stunned as he stepped out, camera in hand. It held proof of something paradigm-shifting. Bears showing problem-solving, compassion across species. The night had unveiled animal intelligence secrets that would take years to unpack. Behind them, the fire raged on, but its threat was foiled by a coalition science would struggle to explain. The bears had shown not just intelligence, but a grasp of nature's web that humans were only beginning to see. They'd proven that in crisis, species barriers could vanish, replaced by a unity stronger than rivalry. Torren's photos soon swept the globe, news outlets airing images of bears, saving a human and forest creatures alike. His footage, bears coordinating, clearing paths, leading an evacuation, stunned scientists. Researchers flocked to the station, poring over Torren's accounts of the bears' fire-savvy tactics and communication. Thermal recordings showed them crafting escape routes with natural features, their grasp of fire dynamics defying instinct. They'd executed a multi-species rescue plan. As the forest healed, Torren documented the aftermath. The bear pack stayed, guarding surviving wildlife, guiding them to safe grounds, sharing territory. The fire had reshaped not just human views, but the bears themselves. Research posts sprang up, noting their unprecedented cooperation. The lead bear, marked by fire-scarred fur, led with striking clarity. Torren's final photo, an icon of conservation, showed it gazing back, eyes aglow against the burning forest, hinting at animal consciousness depths humans had barely touched. The ordeal sparked global talks on wildlife intelligence, spurring protective laws for these bears. Scientific papers rewrote animal cognition, suggesting nature held untapped potential revealed in crisis. Want more wildlife tales that defy our grasp of nature? Subscribe to our Nature's Untold Story series for weekly accounts of astonishing encounters, discoveries, and wild moments.